If you're watching this video, that means that you want to get into filmmaking, but maybe you don't know where to start. Maybe you don't have any connections in the industry, and maybe you're having a hard time convincing your friends and family to help you out with it. Well, whatever the case may be, you are in luck, because in this video, I want to talk to you about how you can use just yourself and whatever camera you happen to have lying around the house to make a short film by yourself to practice and hone your skills. Back in November of 2023, I had this idea to do a short film with, just myself, or, mostly just myself. But basically, I didn't want to pester any of my friends or people to get involved with this. I just wanted something that would be fun, quick, and something that, could help me practice some of the things I wanted to try experimenting on in film. Now, while I'll admit some of the ideas I had when making this short film were a little bit ambitious, and I did cheat just a little bit by having my mom help out some with the camera, but unless you're like me and you're trying to tie yourself down to a table for your movie, chances are you don't need anyone else to hit the record button on that camera other than you. So much of this short film was just me trying to experiment and try out different ideas that I had for movies. But before I keep going on any further, I am 100% going to spoil my short film, There Can Only Be One. So for those of you that haven't seen that short film yet, go ahead and pause this video, watch that short film, it's only like 5 minutes long, and then go ahead and hop back in here and then we can talk about it. So now that you've seen There Can Only Be One, I can go ahead and spoil the hell out of it. Alright, so the idea behind making that short film was I wanted to play two different characters, both the victim and the killer. But the idea was to go ahead and find ways to put both of them in some of the same shots together. Now, the very first thing that I did going into coming up with the story for this short film was I didn't want to overcomplicate things in terms of getting resources or things to use at my disposal. So one of the first things that I did to come up with a costume for this killer was I had this old outfit that I wore when I was an actor back at Factory of Terror, as well as, this creepy mask that I'd used, many, many years ago that I decorated for a Halloween costume. And I put those together with an old wig that I have in my garage, and boom, I got the outfit for the killer. For me, I just, had some clothes that, I would generally wear, and I found a shirt that I wouldn't mind eventually cutting up. The idea was, though, I wanted to make sure that anything that I was using in this movie was something that I already own, something that's already in my disposal. Clothes I already have, props I already have. And we'll get into that a little bit more too. And even a location. So like all of this was shot at my house and it was shot in my garage, right? And for the, the kill room scene, whenever we're in there, I had this, black plastic sheeting that my mom and I hung that up. And then we staged it to where we looked like there was a table. We actually stacked like an old, I don't know what you want to call it, like a cedar chest, I think is the proper term. On top of like stacks of carpet tiles we had at the time to make a table that I could actually lay on, because our first table I was going to fall through, so that wouldn't have worked out at the time. But we went ahead, we built that, got a bunch of tools, we got a lot of tools in the garage, really, bloody some stuff up, make it look real creepy. We got a hanging light, I wanted to use that. And then my mom built a dummy, and the way she kind of did that was just with, once again, clutter and junk that we have around the house, fill that up, put the clothes on it to match what my character is wearing. And I had this old severed arm prop, right? And, I had no use for it. I never used it in anything else in my life, but I figured, hey, I have it. Why don't we do it to where I cut my arm off and I can finally get some use out of the severed arm too? So the first lesson, if you want to practice making a short film by yourself, don't think, you got to go out and buy a bunch of stuff or get a bunch of different resources that you don't have. You probably got some interesting, crap and junk around the house that might make an interesting movie prop or set decoration, and, write your script around using those items. Now, the process in terms of actually getting the shots and kind of, mastering the cinematography of this, in pre-production was pretty much similar to what you're going to do on any movie set. You're going on to, a document and you're typing out your shot list, and you're going to draw maybe some storyboards to help you conceptualize, visualize your shot ideas. You're going to follow a lot of the same, cinematography rules. You want to try to get your shots on the rule of thirds, and, have some fun and experiment with some unique and cool shot ideas. This is a great opportunity to really test that out. So like for me, one thing that I really wanted to try out on this short film and, experiment and play with a little bit more was lighting. And what I wanted to do with the lighting, for the most part, with the exception of one scene, was I wanted all of the stage lights that I'd have set up behind the camera out of the shot to be motivated by practicals that we'd see in the scene. So whether it was putting a backlight behind me that matched the temperature tone of a light bulb, or something along the lines of, my computer screen has like a white light to it, and so having a light set to white, and just playing with some of these ideas. Now here's where it gets hard, and you have to be very, very patient. If you're making a short film completely by yourself, no help, and it's what I do for these YouTube videos too, is you really, really got to be patient, right? So you're setting up the camera, you're kind of, you put maybe a dummy or, some kind of object, kind of generally where you want to focus your shot at, frame your shot accordingly. Now you got to jump in front of the camera after you hit record, and then you want to check, okay, was my head cut off? Okay, my head was cut off. I need to tilt the camera up some. I'm not quite center frame. Maybe I need to slide this chair over. And it's a lot of guess and check, record, stop, record, stop, record, stop. But once you get it right, well, then you're golden. And if you have a monitor, which at the time I didn't, but let's say for those of you that have a monitor, well, your life's going to be easier because then you just flip the monitor around and go ahead and see where you're at. But if you don't have a monitor, it's what you got to do. You got to kind of guess and check a little bit. But it's worth it. Just be patient, and you can really have some fun and test out some new ideas. So one of the most experimental ideas I wanted to try out for this movie, and there were a few that I wanted to test, but the one that I'm the most proud of how it came out was, I mentioned earlier how I wanted to be able to be both characters in the same shot. And I had this idea of, to really sell that effect that it's two people, where I would get hit in the back of the head with the hammer by the killer and fall down. And I wanted to show the guy coming up from behind me, or me coming up from behind me, if you will. And so when I do that, the way I had to shoot that is I have to have the camera stationed at one spot, okay? This is where the camera's at. I can't move it. If I even blow on it, breathe on it wrong, it moves an inch, the whole thing gets thrown off. You got to have it right where it's at. So I do that. Now I'm kind of figuring out the markers. Okay, so victim character, let's say I'm victim character standing about here, killer's coming up. I need to put something on the floor, mark where that character's going to be. Throw on one costume, play the victim. Boom, I get hit with the hammer, I fall, right? Now throw on the Halloween outfit, grab the hammer, come up behind. I have to now not only kind of match where was I standing before, but like, where does the hammer need to stop? Like if I'm swinging a hammer, where do I need to stop the swing to sell that illusion that, there's nobody standing there in the shot. So I need to sell that illusion that there's somebody there. And I didn't think it would work. Surprisingly, it did to great effect. So I'm happy about that. But in post, then what you got to do is you got to mask around the one character. I have to mask around the victim, create an image mask, and then I have to motion track that mask. So when I'm falling, I have to move the keyframes, ever so delicately, so that way that mask is following that. And then in the other shot from behind me, I just leave that one. That's essentially the blank slate, even though there's another character in it. But it was definitely worth experimenting on. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't doing a short film by myself, to really master that, to really kind of nail in and hone in on some of those skills. Now, like I said, when you watch There Can Only Be One, yeah, you'll say, hey, Sam, you're lying, you're cheating. You had your mom there to help. And who was flickering the lights? Okay, my mom helped a little bit, flickering lights. Grandma was flickering lights. You don't have to flicker lights. You can do a short film. You don't have to flicker lights, okay? Like I said, I went a little bit ambitious, and I was working with resources I had at my disposal, and mom and grandma were home and not busy, and so they were willing to help out. If you don't have anyone that's willing to help out, you know, I wouldn't have had the lights flicker. I would have found a different way to do that without, you know, creating that illusion. I would have thought of something different. You know, maybe I could turn a fog machine on, right? Have some fog coming out. Different things like that that you can just experiment with and test out and give a shot to. Now let's talk about audio. The only sound, the only dialogue that I recorded for the entire short film was, once again, I had my mom sit rather, you know, at this green screen, which, yeah, this is a green screen. Sorry to break the illusion. There's no brick wall here. But I had her sitting in front of this green screen, and I laved her up, recorded her audio, right? Okay, now that doesn't apply to you. You're making a short film by yourself. You don't have your mom playing a news lady. Okay. How did I get the sound for the rest? Well, for one, I did not do any dialogue. Neither of my characters say a word. They're silent the entire time. The most that I do is some, you know, gurgling when I'm, you know, getting my arm cut up and I'm like, you know what I mean? I did it better in the movie, but you know what I'm saying. All of the audio was actually created in post. It was all Foley sound. So after I shot the film without any audio whatsoever, I went back around and I watched the dailies of that film, and I'd say, okay, I need a sound of the drawer opening and closing. I need a sound of, you know, a knife being pulled out, you know, this or that, the curtain rods. And so what I would do is, you know, I'd take a shotgun mic attached to a Zoom H6 and I'd record just the sound, and then in post I layered it in, and that was really cool and really fun experience on my end, capturing all that Foley sound and just creating all of the sound design completely in post-production. Anyway guys, there you have it. The moral of the story in this video is, I guess it's less of how to make a short film by yourself and more of why you should, okay? There's a lot of experiments I wanted to try, whether it was the blood gushing out of the arm special effect that I, you know, took a saw and was sawing through a water bottle filled with blood. You know, whether it was the hammer thing that I talked about earlier. There's a lot of cool stuff that you want to try as a filmmaker, but when you're under the constraints and you're under the pressure of working on a real set with, you know, a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders are involved in this project. You got people that, hey, you know, it's lunchtime, I want to eat, you know, and when are we going to wrap for the day? We've been shooting for 9 hours, you know, which is, you know, nothing in Hollywood, but on an indie film set, you really don't want to be running sets all that long. So really what I'm saying is, you have these ideas. Before you go out and start putting out a casting call and a crew call out on Facebook, practice. Okay, make a short film by yourself. Try out some of these ideas. Try out some of these effects, some of the stuff that you want to try. Give it a go by yourself. Find out what works, what doesn't work. The things that work, now you have experience, now you have more knowledge. You go on to set and you try that, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Maybe try again, or maybe rethink the idea and keep practicing. The most important thing that we can do as independent filmmakers is always, always practice. Don't wait for an opportunity to come by, right? Take that opportunity. Grab that opportunity. If an opportunity doesn't exist, if a door's not open, kick the door down and make an opportunity. Take a sledgehammer, go through the wall and make a doorway that wasn't there before. Don't actually do that, but it's more of a figure of speech. But you know what I'm saying. Anyway, guys, once again, I hope you liked this video. Remember, if you're a fan of this content and you want to see even more videos on independent filmmaking, you know what to do. As always, go ahead, drop a like on this video, subscribe, and then smash the bell for notifications. You don't want to miss any content coming up here on Franz Productions. And if you're an independent filmmaker, and let's say that you took some of this advice and you went out and you made a short film by yourself, well then let me know. Down in the comments, go ahead, let me know, where can I watch it? I'd love to check it out, and hey, maybe I'll even cover it in an indie spotlight video. Anyway guys, until next time, as always, that's a wrap.